When addressing cellular pH, attempting to move it from acidic to alkaline, what are the differences and some experiences that you have seen in both timeframes and outcomes when addressing this with either dietary change only, supplementation only, or combining dietary changes with supplementation?
Right. So when we talk about metabolic acidosis or cellular metabolic acidosis, what we mean is that in order to have this rather remarkable agent, an independent part of our cell called the mitochondria, or midichlorians if you prefer in the Jedi speak. But mitochondria basically have the following deal with our cells. They're very sensitive to oxidative damage, mitochondria. They are saprophytes, which means they invaded us, but they helped us. And they have two requirements. The first requirement is that we have to have the antioxidants to protect them from everything like sunlight, which is too harsh for them, too strong for them, all the way to pro-oxidants like solvent residues, persistent pollutants, toxic minerals, mold products, if they get into the cell, which they can, and even isotopes. And important to point out that these harms only occur when the cell is depleted in protective antioxidants and or depleted in minerals. And how do we know that the cell is depleted in minerals? Well, because the cell becomes more acidic. And life exists just above the alkaline middle point. So many people are aware that there's a pH range from 0 to 12 in the laboratory. That's true, but life, biology, exists basically between 6 and 8, but more particularly between 6.8 and 7.5. And the venous blood is a little more acidic than the arterial blood. And fortunately, there was a man named Sigurd Andersen who did 100,000 arterial and venous blood gas analyses and published what's become the nomogram, or the, put the values on this map and you'll know where the person is in regard to metabolic acidosis, metabolic alkalosis, respiratory acidosis, respiratory alkalosis, or where you want to be, this tiny little, quote, green zone where you're well buffered and well reserved. And what do you measure? Well, you measure pH, you measure bicarbonate, and you measure CO2. And the machine comes back and says, this is what it means based on the Sigurd Andersen nomogram. And today you can even do ionized calcium and ionized magnesium. And there's an important reason why you want to add that, especially if you're in the operating room. Because there are many times when the surgeon and the anesthesiologist has shifted the control of the patient to the machine, and the patient is getting acidic and running out of ionized calcium and ionized magnesium. And if you run out of either ionized calcium or ionized magnesium, you die. And nobody wants to die in the operating room, especially a surgeon having a patient die in the operating room. It's bad for reputation. You have to go to the clinical pathological conferences and explain why it happened. No one wants to do that. So today you have a machine that can measure either arterial or venous blood gases and ionized magnesium and calcium. And that is very helpful, but generally available in hospitals, not generally available as an outpatient procedure. And the reason we recommend looking at that first urine after rest is because once the fluid in the bladder equilibrates with the lining cells, you have a 1 time a day opportunity to measure what's going on in the cell through the fluid. Now, if you have enough minerals, then the cell is more alkaline. It's called the proton gradient, and that's necessary for the battery of the mitochondria to work. Because most people know that the mitochondria gives us the energy ATP work molecule. It's like we get the currency of life and recharge from the battery of the mitochondria. The same mitochondria is responsible for detoxifying the persisting pollutants and the solvent residues, and is a place where toxic metals can settle in and basically do harm. Interestingly, if you have that partial inhibition of your mitochondria, if you have as much ascorbate based on your C cleanse as we recommend, you can recharge the cytochrome 4. It turns out ascorbate has the unique ability to span the 0.5 millivolt gap that's in cytochrome 4 and rehabilitate or recharge the mitochondria, which in some cases is life-saving. So this is more than of casual importance. You must, however, have the proton gradient, which means have magnesium inside the cell. And if you're not recharging the magnesium, which you have to take in from the outside, it's elemental, you can't make magnesium, you have to take it in from your diet or supplements. If you lack magnesium, then you're going to run out of magnesium in the cell, the proton gradient goes away, and now the battery shuts down. And what happens? You go back to what's called anaerobic glycolysis. You go back to converting sugar into energy without the benefit of the battery and the mitochondria. Lactic acid and or pyruvic acid begin to build up. And what happens? Your endurance goes down. You run out of energy after you eat instead of feeling recharged after you eat. The metabolic cost of survival puts you, from my point of view, into survival mode. Emden-Meyerhoff will help you survive. Anaerobic glycolysis, you can survive, but you won't thrive. Your get up and go has gotten up and gone and you're not sure where it went. That's not a happy scenario. So we want to keep the proton gradient. We keep that by getting the magnesium in. That's the PERC Mag Plus Guard and choline citrate combination, so that we enhance the uptake and we chaperone the delivery. And as you know, that's another patent that we have. A fundamental insight in maintaining the proton gradient and maintaining the battery so that life can thrive. We don't want to be in survival mode. We want to be in thrival mode, or we want to be in high level health mode, or whatever the opposite of just surviving. And to do that, the C cleanse, so you know how much antioxidant, the daily pH, so you know how much magnesium and choline citrate to take in. And if you're more acidic in the morning, you might want to have 3, 4, 5 doses in a day. Each dose being 2 capsules, which is 220 milligrams of elemental magnesium, and a teaspoon of choline citrate, which is 1,300 milligrams, to facilitate uptake, to make these little nano droplets, and then to chaperone the delivery and make everything active, because as is true for all the PERC products, every aspect of every product is active. And so the choline corrects choline deficiency and balances out inositol and makes acetylcholine neurotransmitter and cholinergic bile salts that help the liver. And the citrate helps recharge and alkalinize the same battery mitochondria because it's a Krebs salt. So there's lots of synergies in what we recommend, starting from the recycled glutamine and its unique combination with PAC, including the regular measurement of morning pH, and then accommodating so that we can not just survive, but thrive in the 21st century.